Would you get on an airplane with a drunk pilot? Many of us fly through our days on autopilot with no thought of wellness. Join us today for a discussion with Dr. Olga on investigating your chronic stress leading to burnout. Dr. Olga is an integrated medicine physician. She's also an anesthesiologist by training. She studied Western medicine, Chinese, Japanese, and French medicines, and has passion for holistic approach to healing. Welcome, Dr. Olga, and thanks, Michelle, for joining me again today. I was hoping that we can wrap up our segments with a couple of very strong sections, which are ReKindle and Erupt. So when we covered a lot, with our story of Flamed Out, we covered a lot about investigate. How do we investigate and start, understanding, self-assessing what is going on? What is the health of our pilot? What is the health of our plane? Okay, so we are at a point that some alarm bells have rang, and I identified, the fruit my tree's producing needs a little bit of fixing. Actually, probably start from scratch as I could, right? So let's talk about recovery path and sustaining change. When you encounter individuals who are ready and they're just tired, and that's where I was when I found you. I was tired of trying to investigate and solve the problem on my own. I knew it was flamed out. I was not getting the answers that I wanted. The reason why ReKindle was born with my partners is there was no solution that helped me understand my current state of being after going to 11 physicians. And thank you, Lord, for bringing me to you. You were just incredible at finishing up my sentences and pointing out the gaps and really taking me back to the very first issue and a very first bill that I had during my first burnout and breakthrough. I realized I've been on the path of self-destruction, not knowing it for way too long until I ran out of path, literally. So when people come to you, how do you approach a plan with them?
That's a very interesting question because everybody's story is different. And one of the homework that we actually do with my patients are exactly what you mentioned, going back to the when the problem starts. And funny enough, sometimes we're going to 3-4 years as old as people can remember themselves. They can remember that they were stressed out or they did not get the care that they wanted, or nobody was paying really attention to what he or she was saying because there were other siblings or other interests that preoccupied the minds of the adults around. And going from there, the patterns of coping with these problems in every person is different. But unfortunately, it is so that most of us choosing unhealthy kind of ways of coping with the stress and the burden of the amount of the unhappiness that people experience in their life. And let's just put it down as the axiom. Most, if not all, medical problems are starting from some rather unhappiness and stress. Yes, it is elicited like the whole physiologic response, but that's where it begins. And so returning back to the moment when they can remember themselves stressed, that's what elicits then growing like a plant, growing the plan of survival and healing. And so it's very individual and it's very different from person to person, but all of them include multiple levels or layers of the recovery. And very often we start with restoring the spirit restoring the emotions, and then, or at the same time, restoring the physical balance. This is what's lacking in us when we're not well: balance and harmony. And so restoring that is super important. And we need to understand that if a person comes to me and he or she has 20, 30, 40 years of the problems built up, it's not going to be solved within one visit or 1 month of the work. And if I say, that particular person needs to go and see a team of specialists, like say chiropractor, acupuncturist, herbal specialist, primary care physician, neurologist, or psychologist, or anybody else, that's required because we are really complex. And so, once again, everybody's path to health are very, very different, but very, very important. And sticking with that plan once it's created is super important, and not expecting like overnight recovery. I just don't have a magic pill. I'm sorry.
I love the way you put it, Dr. Olga, is that it also comes back again, right? We are the pilot. We are in charge of the plane, including the baggage that's in the storage down there, meaning how
Yes.
am I how am I dealing with the whole health of my plane and the pilot? And it's important to notice that we have to be accountable. We have to have follow up and follow through ourselves, and we have to have accountability over our own selves. And if we don't, we will fall apart. And when we fall apart, we don't get to buy a new part and change it out. Once our bodies wear out, they stay worn out until they completely perish. And having this path to recovery is very interesting concept. Like you said, it's different for everybody. It has to start somewhere for most of us. And for most of us, it starts way too late until we already have to have that surgery. We already have that really chronic condition that is just a nuisance to get rid of, right? We stuck in the have to, and I have to, with what we used to on autopilot. But that has to is what's keeping us in that state of dis-ease, of state of chronic stress. And one blessing in disguise, and I say blessing in disguise, is like with you and I, Dr. Olga, we fell ill. Like we were done. Our bodies unplugged and said, "You think you're going to go today somewhere? I will show you. You're not going to move." Because that's what it's going to take for the pilot to ground the plane, right? The pilot is stubborn because he thinks he can fly a junk plane. No, that's not how our bodies work. So I really appreciate that concept of path to recovery. And we all, as pilots, get to decide, when does my path start? And I think one thing you'll really appreciate, you mentioned that our bodies talk to us. It doesn't speak English or any other language, but it does speak to us. You will be proud to learn that just last week, I had a dream. I was at the store and I was dreaming up about that kale. And I was totally there shopping in an aisle of abundance of kale and thinking which one fits the color palette Dr. Olga told me I have to eat. So our bodies do talk to us, whether it's through dreams or through cravings. And when they crave the good things, you are on the right path of listening to your body and keeping you in the sustaining change mode. So Dr. Olga, do you see a lot of patients who come to you and ready to start? How is their passion to adhere and actually heal? Does that wither as they get better, or do they, had a wake up call and they said, okay, I'm going to keep this up because now I need a different type of plan to deal with life and stress?
Well, it's very interesting that once we come to realization that we're not able to continue the way we could before, we don't always realize that we're not flying the same plane. We used to be in the jet and one of the fastest and the best, but now we might be in the propeller plane, or we might be actually in one of those, the initial planes that were lifted by mostly the air power. So we're just barely floating there in the air. So taking the appropriate steps to recognizing where you stand is very important as the path of healing. You said something about once our body is worn out, it's staying there. It actually has a lot of ability to actually heal, sometimes completely, sometimes not. But if you came to the physician with bouquet of the problems and now you're trying to fix all at once, you probably will not be able to fix all, but at least improve some. So where you stand, how worn out is your plane, and is there anything that needs to could be fixed, is really important to understand. And so when people come to the to me, that's the one of the conversations we have. We actually talk a lot, and talking is very important in that, and that's one of the problems of conventional medicine. Statistically, patients are interrupted in the first 20 seconds of they are beginning talking to the physician. Interrupted with the detailed question. Okay, where is your headache? Okay, how does it hurt? How often? Okay, here's the pill. Do you understand how to take it? Okay, goodbye. I just started, and I actually started from the headache all the way down to that pinky toe that bugs me for the last week or something. But I forgot about my pinky toe because now I'm throwing so much information on how to take that pill and which pharmacy I need to go to. Talking through your problems are very important. And we as physicians don't have always time to listen to the whole list. Guilty, I do sometimes slow down my patient and say, okay, I understand you have a lot, but I've heard this, and this. How about we concentrate on that first, and then we'll proceed with something. That gives us a chance to actually go in the depth of this particular problem that, meanwhile, I hear is the most bothersome for the person. And then assess the others during the future conversations or later conversation. That's not always happening in the primary care physician office. Understanding what's happening with the person takes time. And particularly because, as you notice, not always people actually understand what bugs them for sure, what are the problems that they experience. And so they might be actually unaware of the complexity of what they're going through. Doctor, I don't feel well. Okay, I understand. Now let's talk about it. And that's where the plane after plane, the layer of difficulties, emotional and physical stress, unhappiness and burdens, toxicities and like total crushes are coming out to the surface. And that's when you realize that this problem is just a tip of the iceberg. And so sometimes the plan could be very easy. Just take those 3 breaths a day. That's all. For the next week, I want you to do just that, because the amount of the burden that you go through is impossible to even to pull it out. Person can deal with it. That's why we frequently seal it. That's why it's just sitting somewhere there as a toxic load somewhere in our plane that now no country will allow to land because it's too toxic to kill, it might kill everything living out there. And so we just keep flying with that toxic load. And the only way to deal with it is picking piece by piece and deal with it as it comes, and only gradually deal with all this amount of unhappiness. So yeah, if you personally like overwhelmed and stuff, let's just start with 3 breaths a couple times a day, whenever you remember. No like harsh prescription, but help yourself to remember to take those breaths. That starts the work towards remembering about you as the pilot of this poor plane that is overused, abused, and it didn't have any time to land and recover the strength for so long.
Dr. Olga, I think in our current culture, we have this idea that we go to the doctor, they give us a pill, and then we're on our way. Hearing you talk about this, where it's going to be a process. You still have to deal with, one thing at a time. And maybe if you have capacity, maybe you can deal with a couple things at a time, but it's going to take time. It's going to take some commitment. I feel like that's a hard thing for most of us, because culturally we've been taught, we go to the doctor, we get the pill, we get the treatment, whatever it is, and then we go on our merry way. And what you're saying is, no, this is going to be a process. And I think that's something that is important to acknowledge. I know for Brian and I, we did not have someone walking us through it, but it took, for Brian, it actually took over a year. It would have been a lot quicker if he had come to see you, probably, maybe. But it was a long process. And I think that's something that is a little hard for us to swallow. We want everything now.
Yes, and it's a cultural event.
Mm-hmm.
Just let's go back 100 years ago, when the doctor would come to your house in his or her private, carriage, and carry a bag that contains all of his medical devices, from scalpel to stethoscope, and actually sit down by your bedside and actually ask you what's going on and how do you feel about it, and what do you think could be done about that, and then maybe actually examining you from head to toe, and maybe then suggesting something, not just a pill or mixture or drops of some kind, but it could be changing in the food, taking a walk, drinking a particular drink, having seen your friends or certain people that will be helpful to your emotional being, and so on. And then you might actually have a cup of tea with doctor before he or she, then he leaves your house. And you feel like you actually spent time with the physician. Your physician gave you good advice, and you're actually willing to take this advice and go on and fix something. Okay, now let's return back here where doctors are allocated the whole 8 minutes per patient, and you come to see the patient. You put in the cold white room with the random person checking your vital signs, running out of the room. Okay, doctor will be back to see you. Okay, and then you're all stressed. Here comes the doctor. No communication really. Here's the pill. Doctor, all I want is just return back to work because I have this project that is due tomorrow, and my headaches are killing me. Or, doctor, I need something so that I can actually speak because I have a sore throat and I'm not able to. And I have this important something, and so on and so on. And you flying out of the doctor's office with the big eyes and the prescription in the hand, hoping that tomorrow, or whatever else they gave you, will fix your problems and you will be just fine as always. We lack the culture of healing. We are not people of wellness. We're people of work, and work a little more. We forget that we are not machines. Even machines require spare parts. I take my car for the oil change periodically. You probably do too. Who is changing oil in us? Who is giving us enough of vacation? There are plenty of people in this country who have 4 days vacation time a year. Is it enough? It's not even enough to sleep all of this tiredness off. So this is a society and a cultural thing that pushes us to live our life fast and difficult. And yes, in this situation, we don't think about ourselves. We don't think about taking time off, or that the healing will take some time. Oh my God, doc, what are you talking about? Give me that pill. I need to go. I have so much things scheduled. Did you see my list of to do?
Yeah. And it sounds like in order to truly recover, there's going to have to be a change of mindset where we're going to have to realize this is not, you're not just going to recover and then go back to flying like you were. Like you said, there's been changes to the plane. It sounds like we need to commit to a sustained change over time of we're not going back to the old lifestyle. There are changes we're going to have to make and continue for presumably the rest of our lives.
We made some changes to make our lives unhealthy a while ago. So for us to return back to health, we need to revisit and recognize that the life changes that we made were unhealthy and switch to the healthy habits and ways of living our life.
I love that you said we don't have a culture of healing. It's really stuck to me, and I relate to that completely. I think one of the main ingredients in the culture of healing is time for rest. Because healing happens when we rest. It happens when we sleep. You have a belief. I'll let you tell the audience what the sleeping cycle, circadian cycle should be, what time you should be going to bed and not looking at any blue light. That compromises you sleep further. But in our culture, we are addicted to busyness, and that keeps us from healing because we're not getting full rest during our sleep cycle. We're restless the next morning. The cycle repeats itself until we continue to slide down the hill until we actually stop. And the 3 actionable things our audience can do right now to step into the path of, a better choices and a better life is 1, to breathe. Your breathing technique is excellent. 4, 7, 8. You inhale in 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 7, and you exhale for 8 seconds. Did I get that right?
You did.
Great.
4, 7, 8. And the important thing also, while you're exhaling, let the stress go. Just feel your muscle relaxing. Relax that poor neck and the upper shoulders that we all have super uptight because we're carrying the world on us. Let it go. Breathe it out. Remember that you're not alone. There are also forces and powers here, including your friendships and relatives who are able to help you. You're not alone. Take a breath. Relax.
So first one, take a breath and engage your parasympathetic nervous system. You're engaging your rest system. You're giving your brain that second to shift gears from stress into maybe even rest, right? If you can summon the nervous system to come and actually help you relax. So breathing is 1. To stay hydrated. How hard is it for us to finish that bottle of water and refill it during the day? Really hard. I'm not great at hydrating. So breathe, hydrate. And the third thing that you can do right now is go for a walk outside. Enjoy the sunshine. You don't have to, do it at a specific time every day. Our weather is interesting throughout. But find that time to be outdoors. And if you're outdoors around sunrise or sunset, it will naturally help you to restore your natural sleeping cycle. You don't need any supplements to do that. You just need to encourage your body to rest and disconnect and enter safely into that healing cycle that happens when we sleep. Any other advice you'd like to give to our audience, Dr. Olga, in order for them to start their recovery path and make sure they are sustaining those changes in their lives?
And Dr. Olga, I'm gonna just interject. Can you also tell us your thoughts on rest? Because I heard Masha mention it, but we didn't get to it. So if you could add that in as well.
Well, have you seen a cat or a dog being active, running full speed, or enjoying their time playing together with the other animals? What do they do next?
They take a good nap.
Pass out.
We don't. We should remember that human body is also requiring good quality rest. And most of the people who don't sleep well if you go back into beginning of the problem, they actually train themselves not to sleep. We program to fall asleep at certain hours, and we do need certain amount of hours. Women actually require a little bit more than men statistically, and it is individual. Some people could be okay with the 6 hours of sleep, and some people require 10 hours, despite whatever they train themselves. 10 hours sleep might be the ideal for them, and so accommodating for these personal requirements is very important. Though most of us forgot, we don't know how much we need. We just know that on the weekend I don't wake up in the evening and go back to sleep. So the advice would be, try to follow your pattern. When you're starting to yawn and it's not 4 p.m. but close to 8, maybe it is time to get ready for bed. When you're getting ready for bed, don't talk about anything stressful. Don't start fighting with your spouse or with your colleagues. You don't have to look over that project that is due tomorrow. You don't have to figure out where is your child's books for the tomorrow. They will figure it out themselves. Delegate them. You need to relax, and the whole family need to relax. It would be really good to sit together and talk about the day. This one was not so good. This was bad, but this was good. And end up on a positive note. Start bringing this positive attitude in everybody, because it changes a lot of neurotransmitter settings in the dopamine release, in the preparing of body to enjoy the rest. And then maybe take a little walk outside, not strenuous exercise, just a little walk. Dog, not dog, just alone. Listen to some other audiobook or read a book of kindness and happiness. You can take a warm shower and enjoy a glass of milk if you're, of course, tolerating the milk, or a warm drink of some kind, because the warm drink is also very relaxing for your digestive system and cardiovascular system. So overall, you're telling your body, we're shutting down, we slow down, we are prepared to restore, to heal, to enjoy our night's sleep. And you will be amazed how fast you fall asleep, and you will have a very good, sound sleep. Good luck.
Excellent suggestion. And when you do have that family time, reminder to put away your electronic devices, regardless of the sizes of them, on mute or off. You don't want any distractions. You don't want to condition your body that there's always something in the background. We need to start unplugging from those and closing all those tabs in the Internet Explorer of our brains. And it has to happen physically around us too. Thank you so much, Dr. Olga. It was a wealth of information to talk with you over the last several segments on Investigate, our pilot, and our dashboard. We talked about your flamed out story, and thank you for sharing that in a prior episode with us, as well as recovery path for individuals and sustaining change. We have some great actionable advice that people can start taking now. Remember, one step in the right direction is change. You don't have to implement it all today, but if you start with one thing at a time and you build on it, you are changing habits, you are changing your life, you're changing the life of the family and the loved ones that are around you, and you can recognize your chronic stress that can lead to burnout. It's all about self-assessment. Know your pilot, know your plane, take frequent inspections before you fly, and make sure your weather is also checked and you're fully tuned in. And join us again in the future as we continue the topics about rekindling your inner flame and finding your path fueled with passion and purpose so that you can live a life that is worth living. You don't have to wait to live. It starts right now. Thank you.
Good advice.